Welcome to the Quantum Revenue Expansion Podcast. My name is Ursula, and I'm a sales expert, strategic business coach, and USA Today bestselling author. I love sharing strategies that show you exactly how to turn your annual revenue into your monthly revenue. If you're looking to take a quantum leap in your revenue or sales, your team, your productivity, your success, and your life, then you are meant to be here. My goal in every episode is to help you take your belief that it's possible to 2x or 10x your revenue while working way less to knowing that it is happening right now. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Quantum Revenue Expansion, where we talk about turning your annual income into your monthly income. And yes, you can see her here. I have the amazing Melissa Swink of Melissa Swink and Company back on the show. I think you're going to be a record holder, Melissa. You're one of our record holders. So welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. It never gets old being here. It's always fun, and there's always more to talk about in the world of business, which is always changing and evolving. So I'm happy to be here.
I'm glad to have you. And yes, we've had some very courageous conversations because one time you came on and we did some live coaching. That was a lot of fun. So for those of you who haven't met Melissa yet, I will introduce her. And then there's other shows you can go back and listen to because I'm sure she's going to inspire you, because today we're going to talk about 3 ways hiring actually increases your monthly profit. And yes, we've been talking a lot about profitability on the show. We have launched the Profit Accelerator. It's happening in October. More to come on that. And I know some of you also know, if you listened to the show last week, that we have a new webinar. This is our free gift. It's complimentary, called The 5 Steps to Create Your Freedom Schedule, work 25 hours a week or less, and still double your sales. We have limited space in that webinar, and we really do have limited space because we're doing it on Zoom, and you can only see so many people on a Zoom screen, and I want to be able to connect with those who show up. So if you haven't registered yet, get registered. First come, first serve. There's always a few who can't make it at the last minute, so we will squeeze you in. So definitely get registered for that. And Melissa, you have been one of the CEO table members who's inspired the 25-hour work week. I think we talk about it all the time with you. We've talked about it with others. And really that 25-hour work week coming from, for a lot of us who are parents, like working between the hours of dropping our kids off and picking them up. And the amazing thing, the hack in having a 5-hour work week, is that you have to learn how to delegate, whether you like it or not. So those are some of the things we're going to dive in today. Let me tell you a little bit about Melissa's background. If you haven't met her yet and you're like, well, who is this lady? Who is this entrepreneur? Melissa Swink, founder and CEO of Melissa Swink and Company, is a business consultant and has a team of virtual assistants who provide admin and marketing support for small businesses and nonprofits. Makes sense why we're having her here to talk about this, right? After enjoying a corporate career in process improvement and operations management, Melissa turned her knack for productivity and efficiency into a business. Since 2012, Melissa and her team have helped dozens of business owners, and she is dedicated to helping entrepreneurs create profitable, scalable businesses that they love. Keyword love, not a job that you hate, right? Because we can create a business that's 8 hours a day and it's a job that we hate. No, a business that you actually love. Melissa isn't a coach, and that's what sets her apart. As a consultant, she focuses on teaching the how, not the why. Her work is all about nuts and bolts, doing what works and eliminating what doesn't, and driving real, measurable results. So let's just start, Melissa, just a little update on the biz, update on what's going on in your clients' world, like what's going on in the world of virtual assistants.
Yeah, great question. But it's funny, when you were reading that bio, it made me think of our topic for today, because we talk about creating a job for ourselves.
Yeah.
And I certainly created a job for myself when I first started my business, and for about the first 6 years of owning that business, because it was all me. So once I got over that, over all kinds of inner fears and objections to hiring a team, that's when I feel like I truly had a business, and, the joy and the freedom and flexibility that comes with owning a business, because before that, it really was kind of like a job. And I feel like that's where a lot of people start. They start doing all the things, and they have bills to pay, and then they just kind of get in that routine, or they just kind of get stuck on that hamster wheel of doing everything, and they don't have that freedom. And they're like, wow, I'm working, 30, 40, 60, 100 hours a week just to make this thing run. And that's a job.
Yeah.
You don't really have the benefits of being a business owner. So
So good.
anyway,
I
that
love
made
that
me
you
smile.
did that. I love that you started that, because what people didn't hear is before we got on the show, we're celebrating Melissa's birthday as well. Her birthday was yesterday. So it's her birthday month, right? So happy birthday, Melissa,
Thank
from
you.
all of us all over the world. And you also kind of shared like your daughter's been off school, and then
Mhm.
you took your birthday off, and you were feeling a little bit like, even a little bit like guilty, I think you said, which comes up for us business owners. And yet
Yes.
inside of that, I was thinking, how amazing and magical is it that you really can take any time off that you desire? Like if you want to take a day off or a week off or a vacation, or, your child has something going on, the amazing Ava has something going on, right? Like you can go do that. And
Yes.
to me, that's what a true freedom schedule is. It's like you get to pick and choose. And you also mentioned 100 hours. We do have a story. We have a client who had a 100-hour work week, 100 hours. He
Mhm.
wasn't proud of it. He was just like, it's 100 hours. I'm working 100 hours. Single guy, so he could do it, right? There weren't a lot of other things pulling at his time. But he
Mhm.
realized one day, he's like, I don't really want to work 100 hours a week. He hired one person. He hired an executive assistant, a virtual assistant, who total, like she was partially virtual, now I say this, and partially in the office, but anyway, she started working 40 hours a week. Okay, 40
Wow.
hours a week. And he went from working 100 hours to 40 hours. Now if I do the math, 40 and 40 is 80 hours. So then the question is, where did the 20 hours go? They just evaporated, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we're really going to be digging into. That's the return on investment. That's where when you leverage smart people around
Mhm.
you who are way better at you than the things that you're trying to do and waste your time and their skill set, it's amazing what can happen.
Yes.
So,
Yes, exactly. We're going to dive more into efficiency, I think, during this conversation, because that's definitely something to be gained when you start hiring and building a team and hiring people who have skill sets and expertise that you don't.
yeah,
The truth is that we're not the Jack or Jane of all trades like we think we are.
we're
There are
not.
things, no, I know, shocker, spoiler alert, but
Yeah.
yeah, lots of efficiencies to be gained through hiring as well. But let's see other business updates. I feel like we get a little bit cyclical in that last year, I think we spent a lot of our time really focusing on operations and team structure and all of that. And now things are shifting more into like our offerings. We've got some new services, which I'll share more about in a second here, but also taking a look at our overall like sales and marketing process and tuning into, where are our clients hanging out? How can we reach them where they're at? How can we make it even easier to do business with us? So I feel like we will work on sales and marketing, and then we're ops, and then we're sales and marketing, and we're ops. And so I feel like that's always evolving.
Yeah, it was so interesting, especially when you're scaling a business, right? Those things have different times, and
Yep.
it's like we've gone through that too, of where you're shifting programs, then you're shifting systems, and like then the next thing, it's just a lot.
Hmm.
Like literally today, because we're launching the Profit Accelerator. We're doing a beta version this week, and then next month it's going to be open to everybody. It's like in one morning I was working on, well, actually Trisha was doing all the things behind the scenes, but I got to approve some PowerPoint slides, and then I was looking at a sales page, and then I was looking at some marketing copy, but I was looking at it, I was tweaking it, I was editing it, I wasn't doing it.
Yes.
And that's the big shift, right? Like that's where
Mhm.
you go from I'm inside the business all the time to I'm leading the business, which I know you're going to talk about. So let's
Yes.
dive in. I have a million questions for you, but I want to make sure we get through your content and the three ways that hiring actually increases your monthly profit. So I'm going to let you kind of take it away. I'm probably going to interject. I'm probably going to interrupt you, Melissa, just so we can go deeper and wider with some of these things. But I'm going to give you the floor.
Absolutely. Okay, that sounds great. So, before we dive into those three ways that hiring actually increases your monthly profit, a couple of things that I just want to touch on, because I feel like myself, I mean, as I shared, it took me 6 years to hire and start building a team. And this is something I do for a living for other people. I've been working as a virtual assistant and business consultant and doing all the things myself and supporting other business owners. And it took me personally that long. And I feel like there are nearly every client that we start working with, or certainly I meet people all the time through conversations and networking, where we tend to wait to hire longer than we should. And so it's like, well, what's that about? Like, what's underneath the surface?
Mm.
Why are we hesitating? And so, of course, talking, first about some of the inner objections. Certainly, I feel like the number one, which goes hand in hand, a DIY mindset, but really that's more about, in my experience, the fear of giving up control. Like, how many of us grew up hearing things like, if you want it done right, you do it yourself?
Yeah.
Or maybe we've had an experience where even like going back to, I think about, even school days when group projects where it's like, you couldn't rely on the person next to you to show up and do their part of the project. And then you were scrambling, the day before the presentation was due or something like that, where we had these things over time, or we've had these experiences where it's like, I can't trust that person's going to get it done, or what if they don't do it as well as I could? And so there's all this fear, because for a lot of us, our business is our baby,
Yeah. So
right? And these
true.
are our clients, and um, we're afraid to invite others in to work with us because we're not sure how things are going to work out. And of course, we go to the dark side in our mind of like, what if the business shuts down because I hired the wrong person and they upset a client and then they told everyone not to work with me anymore? Like, we just blow these fears out of proportion in our brains. And of course, that's usually not the case. We
But it's
make things
easy to go
so
down
easy.
that path. It's easy to spiral and think those
Right.
thoughts and to get stuck.
Yes. Yes, 100%. So I think there's some fear around that, and certainly when I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole, but when we start working with clients, there are certainly checks and balances and things that there's ways to make sure that the extreme of what you're afraid of doesn't happen.
Yeah.
I will say that. I will say that. And in my experience, there are so many talented people out there who would love to support you and love on your clients just as much as you do. So I think finding the right fit, huge for kind of dispelling that fear. But some of the more external things that I hear about, certainly money. It costs money to hire people. And here's usually where I start reminding people that hiring team is an investment. It's not an expense. So it's intended to give you a return. So it's, certainly money is a factor. The other thing that I think people tend to wait to hire too long is that they're just overwhelmed by onboarding and training. Like
Yes.
like when we're
Yes.
working as a solo business owner, especially, or if there's a role, and I find myself in this role right now because I've done so much of the sales myself, where everything kind of lives up in my head. And so the idea of getting somebody else on my team, or for many people hiring to get help in a certain area, it feels daunting and overwhelming to basically take that knowledge out of your brain and put it into a physical space where somebody else can execute on it.
So big. I'm just going to stop you for a second. That has
Yep.
been even clients who've already hired. They've hired somebody. Maybe they even have two people working for them. And the question is, I'm thinking of like a whole handful of people right now where the question is like, what needs to happen where clients have outsold themselves too. Like we run into this at the CEO table where there's so much business, but they need to make that next hire. But now they're it's like, here I grow and here I go hiring, and here I grow and here I go hiring. It's sort of this ladder. And if you don't stay ahead of the ladder, it can get painful. And let's
Yeah.
be honest, it's a great problem to have.
Mhm.
Like having a lot of sales, too many sales is great. It's great. But you have to be ready to hire. And if you're not, that's when, yeah, you could get in trouble with clients because you're not delivering. So how do you balance those pieces, right? And
Mhm.
and also too, Melissa, like how much does that whole, I'm going to screw this up, or perfectionism get in the way of hiring? Like if it's not the right person, I hear that a lot. Like what if
Yes.
you were saying this, like what if it's not the right person, or they don't have this exact perfect skill set? Is there ever a place, like I love to say in my own business, like you've heard me say this, done is better than perfect, especially
Yes.
when you're writing a sales page.
Mhm.
So how do we work that out with people? Because we're not AI, we're not robots, we're not
Mhm.
perfect.
Yes.
At what point is like hiring
Mhm.
better than just like waiting and waiting and waiting? Like how do you balance that out? Like it might not be the perfect checks every single box, but like then
Yeah.
what?
Yes, absolutely. So I look at this in a couple of things, a couple of different ways. And I certainly am in the middle of this. I see both sides to this coin because I am helping clients find people to solve the problems and meet the needs that they have in their business. But I'm also on the hiring end of I need to find people to solve those solve those problems for those clients. So I'm having conversations on both sides of the spectrum all the time. I think the number one thing that I recommend to people, first of all, is look for maybe for some of your first hires initially, look for somebody who has a skill set that you don't. So things that you do not enjoy doing or you struggle to do. So for example, a lot of people really hate doing their own social media. It's always on
Yes.
the back burner. Like they sit down and they try to write a post and then they look up and it's been 45 minutes and they hate what they've written and now I got to find an image for this thing. I mean, it's just such a drag on their time. They don't enjoy it. That is really low hanging fruit to hire out.
Yes.
So you find somebody who loves social media, somebody who loves helping their clients kind of define their brand and their voice and can guide you through that process. I always look for people who have experience, to be perfectly honest with you. It's pretty rare that I personally or have my clients work with somebody who is brand new to that space. I like to hire people with experience because it just makes the onboarding and the training so much easier and you get those wins so much faster.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. So bookkeeping's the other one.
Yeah. I was going to mention bookkeeping, but I'm like, social media, I think is, I don't want to say the pain in the butt that people complain about even more. I feel like the bookkeeping is something, it's like that closet that just starts accumulating more and more stuff. And then pretty soon you open the door and then the closet is just bursting, which for a lot of us in business, that's like tax time.
Right.
So all of a sudden, you start preparing for your tax appointment with your accountant and you just have this OMG overwhelm moment because I haven't touched my books since like 8 months ago.
Yeah, true.
But bookkeeping is definitely high up on that list. So low hanging fruit, I recommend delegating the things that you don't enjoy doing, you put on the back burner. When you start looking at maybe duplicating some of the things that you're really good at, I think it is really important to find somebody who really understands you and your approach and also understands what your clients need and how to best serve them. So again, that goes back to finding somebody with experience in this area and making sure that they're aligned with your values and your goals.
Yeah. I mean, in my own business, that was finding Rebecca. I mean, I'd already found her, but like Rebecca showing back up in my world. And at first she was on the event side of the business, but then she started doing coaching for somebody else. And I was like, what are you doing over there? And she said, I'm doing business coaching. I was like, well, why aren't you doing business coaching with me over here? And she said, I don't know, maybe we should talk about it. And so like, and I'll never forget, she's like, how do you want me to coach with your clients in the beginning? And I said, well, this is how I coach and this is this and this is that. But over time, and Melissa, you've seen this, what I realized is I wanted her to share my values. That whoever that coach was, which we did, that's critical. To your point, whoever the team members, they got to share your values. From there, I wanted her to balance out the coaching that I do, right? Because I still do some of the coaching with our clients and to really be kind of like yin and yang of coaching. So it's like, but that took us time to figure it out. But to your point, it took me a minute to be willing to delegate coaching.
Yes, I believe that.
And it was painful at first. It was painful. And it took us a while to like find, figure it out. And of course, she's an amazing coach. We're very different. And that's what we tell people up front, right? You get two different coaches. Either people like that or they don't, which is all good because we're not everybody's coaches and we get that. To your point though, it's like even those things that you think in this moment you can't or won't delegate, you can.
Yes. Yes.
What do you think it takes for someone to make the decision to delegate, like to really get some of this big stuff off their plates?
I think that they have to have a clear picture of where they're headed and be willing to let go of the way things are right now in this moment in time.
I don't like change, Melissa.
No, so many people don't. And change can be really hard, but I think when you have a clear intention of where you're headed,
yes,
it gets to the point where staying inside your comfort zone gets to be so restrictive and painful that you're willing to just take that step. Change is hard.
Yes.
And so at what point are you willing to let go of the familiar and take that step and ultimately take that risk and step into the unknown? I think you have to be committed to what you're creating and willing to step out of the comfort zone.
Yeah.
Is really what it's about. Now, I also remind people, because I'm having conversations all the time with potential clients who maybe have never delegated to a team. They've never hired a team member before. They really haven't done a lot of delegating. You can take it one step at a time. You don't have to go from 0 to 60. You can certainly ramp up over time and get help
Truth.
with, whatever you need help with in your business. So to your point, Rebecca probably was not your first hire in your business.
No.
Like, we didn't go all the way from I do everything myself to now there's 2 coaches. You have been putting those building blocks in place where you have been hiring and delegating more and more in the business, where you worked up to the point where you were willing to get another coach involved in your company and what you were doing with your clients.
Yeah. Good point, Melissa. Like, absolutely. Like, it took a minute. Yeah. For those of you who are listening, it took a minute definitely to get there. My first VA, Edie Stumpf. Edie, if you're out there, hello. I think she still listens to the show. She's not a virtual assistant anymore. She started a whole bunch of other businesses back in Corona, California. Some of my California friends remember Edie. And I remember I hired Edie for 10 hours a month. That was it. That was all I had in my budget. And that's where I started.
Yep.
And that
we see that all the time.
Yeah. And I know I'm asking lots of questions. I want to make sure we hit okay. So summarize the 3 ways. Which ways have you already, that hiring actually increases your profit? So
yeah, absolutely. So we started just going through some of the reasons why it takes so long for people to make the hire in your business. So 3 ways that hiring actually increases your monthly profit, because of course we want to focus on not just growing our revenue, but also profitability matters as well. So the first thing is freeing up your time. So hiring frees up your time in order to focus on the needle movers that actually drive your business forward. I sound like Ursula. I've been listening to Ursula for many years. I was just like, wow, did we just like swap for a second as I said that sentence? But I tell my clients all the time, and it's something that I talk about on my own Make Space for More podcast, where you spend your time directly determines your results. If you're running around putting out fires all day long, do you really think that you got to follow up with that potential client?
No.
Probably not. It's so important that you get clear as the CEO of your company where you need to be spending that time. So it starts with that clarity. I have a client who, when she first started working with us a couple of years ago, she's an estate planning attorney. She was pretty much operating solo. She left, the big firm and started a boutique law firm, and she was doing so many things herself. She started working with our team just to even help her with some of her billing and following up with potential clients who were reaching out through her website. And then that freed up her time to ultimately serve her clients better. Also go to, different networking meetings and find potential clients, because she knew that she needed to do more with outreach and networking and ultimately growing her firm, right?
Yeah.
She didn't need to be in the back end behind the scenes of the business. But then now fast forward a couple of years later, she now has a paralegal. She has a full-time in-office assistant who's there to greet her clients and things like that. And she's just grown and expanded. I think she's doing some financial planning services now as well.
Wow.
But she had to get really clear on, here's where I need to be spending my time. And so, yes, she started with a 10-hour a month VA package just to have us helping with some of those inquiries and the billing and some of the back end admin stuff. But she was able to free up her plate so that she could grow in all of these areas.
Beautiful. So first, the hiring really frees up your time so you can focus on the needle movers. And full disclosure, needle movers, that term came from my coach, Elizabeth. So shout out to Elizabeth, and it has stuck in my brain. So we're just passing it on to everyone.
Yes. Revenue generating activities, or depending on your role in your company. I realize this looks a little bit differently, or maybe you're a leader of a nonprofit. Your most impactful activities, not busy work. Basically all the things that are not busy work, the things that actually make an impact towards reaching your goals. So that is one way that we increase profitability. But the second way that hiring actually increases your monthly profitability is that you run more efficiently. So we started talking about, as much as we would love to believe it, we're not good at all the things.
No.
And most importantly, depending on the area of business that we're talking about, you don't know what you don't know. And so having the right expertise on your team is going to save you time and money. And that just continues to compound over time. So, for example, one thing that we offer to our clients is a VIP strategy session. We'll sit down for about 2 hours at a time, and we'll dive deep into, maybe there's a particular goal that a client is looking to achieve, and we put together an action plan, or we will dive deep into a particular area of their business that just feels clunky, like it feels unnecessarily difficult, or maybe there's a lot of mistakes that are being made in a certain area. So one of our clients is a realtor, and one of her pain points was onboarding new agents, right? So that's the way that this client grows her team, or grows her revenue, her profitability, is through recruiting other realtors to join her team. But she's like, I'm spending so much time getting people up and running at my company, and I'm answering so many questions. I want to do a new team onboarding training. I want to create a program. So we walk through all the steps, and we made it very efficient. We walked through what it looks like now. We identified opportunities to make it more efficient. And so now she has a new team onboarding that's mostly automated.
Wow.
Because it was just like, click here for this, and then, that form goes to the, say, graphic designer, who can order the business cards, create the email signature. That also goes to the website person, who can add their bio on the website. All these things, it just flows through. So when we look at, increasing profitability, she is no longer spending her time manually onboarding these agents and all the little nitty-gritty details that go into it.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So that's huge.
Yes.
So when you go back to your client who was spending 100 hours a week, working in his business, and then he onboarded that VA for, say, 40 hours a week, or that assistant, and then he dropped down to 40 hours a week, you're like, those 20 hours evaporated? I am guessing, if I had a crystal ball, that person probably said, hey, you know what? We could use this system, and it'll do all these things for us, and we don't have to do that manual data entry anymore. I would imagine that this person probably pointed out, like, hey, here's how I think we can take what you're doing and make it even better. And then that resulted in hours just evaporating from the business that no manual labor needed to be done on.
You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Yeah. So then the other thing that we look at when we're talking about hiring and increasing profitability is, of course, increasing your sales and grow your business. Because when your operations and your back end is working efficiently, and you know exactly what you need to be doing as the CEO of your company to grow the business, you can leverage team for your sales and marketing activities. So I love how you pointed out a little bit ago in our conversation how you're launching the new Profit Accelerator. You're not creating that whole event by yourself. You're not creating all that content all by yourself.
No.
And certainly you've got others helping to promote that as well.
Yeah.
You're not spending all of your time. And then that way you're not limiting your own growth and revenue and profitability based on the amount of time that you can devote to this.
So true. I'm, and you know this, Melissa, about me, like everything, like what's my hack for this? Big hack is modeling it and, working. I've been studying marketing for 2 decades, and I'm still studying marketing because things change all the time. And so our sales pages change, our Facebook ads change, like everything changes all the time because I have to be in it and studying. And I love that. I'm good at that. I can focus some of my energy and time there. I'm leading it, but I'm not doing the doing.
Yes.
To your point. Team's doing that. I can see the vision all day long. I can see it. I'm like, oh, I can see the end result. I can see where this is going. Oh, we just have to do this. I can't pull the levers. Trisha and others, Cassandra and other people behind the scenes, Rebecca, they know how to pull those levers so much more efficiently than I do. And they're way smarter than I am in those areas. And I love saying that out loud. I am all about finding people who are way more talented than I am in all of these areas, because that's how you move a company forward. And part of it is letting go of that, right, Melissa? Letting go of thinking we have to, as Rebecca says, we have to be the magic, or we have to be the one. Right. The less you have to be the magic or the one to pull all the levers and do the things, the more you can go on that 30-day sabbatical. Just saying.
100%. 100%. And I think too, even in my own company, there's so much more momentum that happens when I get other people involved.
Yes.
Like if I have an idea for maybe a new piece of content that I want to create or a new freebie that I want to put out on the website, if it was just me, like, oh, I'll get to that when I get to it, it'll be 6 months from now and it's still not done.
Sure.
Because there's always something more urgent or more pressing that comes up, right?
Or more entertaining.
Right. Yes. Or more entertaining, or it's a beautiful day and I feel like logging out early, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But having the team, if I get the team involved, I have a conversation with, say, my assistant, my copywriter, and my graphic designer and say, hey, this is what I want to create. They're all working on this behind the scenes. And then I receive it. I give a little bit of feedback. We finalize it and it's out there to the world.
Yeah.
So much faster than if I was putzing around on it myself.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. So, okay. So I'll make sure I got these. So the 3 ways that hiring can really increase our profitability. 1, it frees up our time. 2, it allows us to run more efficiently. And 3, because we have other people helping us, just like the example we talked about, it can increase sales and business growth actually really quickly. Yeah.
Yep. Absolutely.
I know we're kind of to the end here. I just want to put this out here. Women, we have a lot of women who listen to the show, a lot of women business owners. We are women business owners. And 3%, only 3% of women make it over the 7-figure mark. It's a small percentage.
Yes.
I do think, and some of the research shows this, that hiring is one of those places where women get stuck. We're socialized, we're programmed to think we have to do all the things. And we do a lot of times do all the things in the home. We just automatically do a lot of things. I think some of that is socialization. And I'm not judging any of that here. And I have amazing friends who are stay-at-home moms and they're incredible. And to me, their corporation is their home. They're running that corporation with their children. Like they are busy all day. That's also amazing. And they don't physically get paid for that. But to me, that's a 6 to 7-figure job right there. Right. So
for sure.
What is it? Why do women more than guys get blocked from hiring? Like, what do you think it is? And what's some of your advice for women, especially who might be stuck? Guys too. Like if you're out there and you're like not hiring, this is for you as well. It just tends to be more on the female side.
Yeah. That's interesting that you bring that up because again, I keep using myself as an example. And I would say the majority of the clients that we have are women. And to your point, I think it's just, we are used to seeing what needs to be done, rolling up our sleeves and just getting it done.
Yeah.
I think that's just so deeply ingrained where we will just also figure something out. Like if we are presented with a challenge that we have not encountered before, or we're not an expert in, we're hopping on Google, we're solving the problem. Like I think we're so programmed to be doers and givers in our day-to-day life. And so for me, one of the biggest things that held me back from hiring and building a team was that I just worked so closely and seamlessly with my clients.
Yeah.
And they trusted me with their businesses and to serve them well, that having somebody else come in and help with those things, at that time, I couldn't wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
I thought I wanted that small, manageable business. But then, as I've shared before, I think on this podcast, that small, manageable business started managing me.
Yeah.
And that's when I needed to take a step back and go, there needs to be a better way to do this. Because I became a mom 2 years into owning my company. And for the first time ever, my time was not completely my own.
Mm-hmm.
Because if my daughter was sick or there was no school, then work stopped. And because it was all me, then I just kept falling farther and farther behind. And my clients ultimately would suffer from time to time because I wasn't available when they needed me. And that was hard. Like, I feel like women in particular, we're just so used to being helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so that was a block for me for sure when I started my company. But it's definitely an interesting conversation because men are, in my experience, I don't want to do these things. I will pay someone to do them for me. And that's kind of the end of the conversation. Like, done.
Yeah. Good point.
They're just not. So I think they're less attached to who does these things as long as they're done.
Yeah. Sage. Thank you. That is just a lot of wisdom, Melissa, that you have shared today. And I just want to thank you for coming back to the show and being so transparent in sharing just your own business struggles and business growth. Like you've lived it, you continue to live it, and you continue to help your clients live it while they scale and become more profitable. So for those listeners out in the world who might be wanting to either make their first virtual assistant hire and or add to their team and might want to work with you, how do they do that? And I know you also have a gift for them.
I do, yes. So I am the first one to admit that delegation does not come naturally and easily to me. I very much have that DIY mindset ingrained since childhood, hearing my parents talk about if you want something done right, you do it yourself. And so I wanted to create a resource that was super easy and digestible for people like, hey, I know I have too much on my plate. What do I give up first? And so we actually have a brand new PDF on the website. It's 101 things to delegate to a VA.
Ooh.
And so we have the list of, I would say, the top 101 things that we do for our clients. And that is available at melissaswink.com/101. Super easy link to remember. Or if you go to the homepage on the website, there's a banner right at the top. You'll be able to grab that. And it's just a super easy, I think it's a 2-page PDF that you can go through and just start highlighting. Oh, I hate doing this. I would love to hire that out. Or, oh, you know what? That's something that, I really should be doing, but I'm not. Or I've just fallen so far behind on that maybe that is something that I need to look at delegating. Go ahead and grab that download. Certainly, we do free consultations for potential clients. So during those consultations, we just talk a little bit more about, you and your business. What does your current team look like if you have a team now? And what are some of the things that are just slipping through the cracks? Or if you wanted to wave a magic wand and make it easier, what would those things be? And we talk through all of that. And then I put together a customized quote for you at the end of that call to let you know, here's how we can help you and here's what that looks like. So would love to have you check that out as well if you're interested in looking at our team for supporting you.
I love it. Awesome. Yes, Melissa, we will have that all in the show notes. 101 things to delegate to your virtual assistant. That is so brilliant. So that'll be in the show notes and then just a link on learning more about you and how to work with you. And I know we'll have your social media information in there as well. Final word for our CEO. Well, I'll have the final word, but final thoughts from you, Melissa, for our CEOs who are listening.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say that I love how the theme of the podcast has shifted a little bit to talking about profitability, because I have known, clients and so many other business owners where they've been so focused on growth, which is great, but they haven't actually kind of paused and made sure that as all of this growth and, reaching the next level, does it actually make sense for the bottom line?
Yeah.
I know people who have gone from multi 6 figures to over 7 figures, and they're on the verge of bankruptcy because their business isn't running efficiently. They're not pricing their services or their products appropriately. And so profitability, they still can't pay themselves at where they're at right now. So just wanted to give you a shout out for focusing on and emphasizing the importance of profitability, because that's really where the freedom comes in. That's where you start having those options. Because I know, like in my business, and so many other businesses, that your business can become a cash eating monster pretty quickly if you don't make those adjustments and really understand from a profitability standpoint of the sustainability. But just wanted to acknowledge that, because I think it's a conversation that's just so important. I think it's an epidemic out there of business owners who aren't able to pay themselves adequately, or are just stuck on that hamster wheel of working those 60, 100-hour weeks.
Yeah.
And no end in sight. So thank you for allowing me to come on today. And I really support this direction you're heading with the upcoming content.
Thank you for noticing that, because it is the evolution of the company. We started with sales. Remember back in the day, I think you came to sales camp, right?
I came to your very last sales camp that was live.
That's crazy. Yeah.
I know.
And then it evolved into focusing on revenue and scaling. And it's all driven by our clients and our own experiences, right? And then what we realized is that people were growing, but they weren't paying themselves.
Yes.
Or they weren't paying themselves as much as they wanted to. And, or at the same time, because their profitability wasn't there. So right. To your point, you've nailed it. You see the vision. And so that spawned me going, okay, I want to create something called the profit calculator. And I got on the phone with Trisha one day and I was like, listen, what if people started with their dream salary? Like, what if everything had to be reverse engineered around how much they wanted to pay themselves? And over, I feel like there's so much guilt and shame about how much people pay themselves. And that's like a whole other Oprah. Like, we got to get through the limiting beliefs about how much we pay ourselves and this and that. But what if we could force that first? Force is kind of, you know what I'm saying? Like, what if we said, start with your dream salary and then reverse engineer what the companies look like? So I don't even know if you've seen that yet, but we created the Profit Accelerator. Yeah, or the Profit Calculator. That's part of the Profit Accelerator. So people can just, type in my dream salary is $20,000 a month and then reverse engineer what everything else has to be to see what that really looks like. And because I agree with you, like that's one of the things we're really going to be talking about more and more at the CEO table, how much you pay yourself. And what's your bottom line? Now let's be truthful though too. Like we have a client who was so profitable. He's been on the show, was so profitable that it creates problems at the end of the year. Like that's also an issue because that becomes a tax liability. So that's another one of the conversations we're having at the CEO table is like paying yourself, right? The dream salary, making a healthy bottom line, but also throughout the year, every quarter, doing tax planning. So you're spending. Some of our clients don't even spend all their profit, but they need to, or they get hit with more taxes. So then that's like these conversations have just they've expanded over the years. So thank you for noticing that. And, I know that's going to be one of your continued like next level conversations too, is more and more, tax strategy as you continue to grow your corporation. Melissa Swink, we love you. Thanks for hanging out. Happy birthday week. Happy birthday month. We hope that the next 12 months, because it's your birthday week, are the most epic that you could ever imagine. That's our wish for you.
Yes. Thank you so much. And this was so much fun. I feel like we never have a shortage of things to chat about in life and business.
Go way over 30 minutes and I love it. We can even go more than that, which I think everyone appreciates. And so to our listeners all over the world, we appreciate you. Thanks for hanging out with me and Melissa today. And I hope you found this inspiring. And if you did, share it with another CEO who you know that could use this inspirational message today about growing their business. And also check out the free gift from Melissa. And if you're wanting to work with her, the link is below. All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Make this your most epic month yet. See you soon.
Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you loved what you heard, be sure to leave a review on iTunes so I know what you like and can create content that guides you to uplevel your business even more. If you want more strategic business tips, follow me on social media. You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And you can visit my website at www.ursulainc.co. I love being on this journey with you and can't wait to connect with you on the next episode. In the meantime, make this your most epic month yet.